This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 225 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I am speaking with Serena Dodd, and we are diving into how to manage a business mindset. Now, mindset, I know we get to this point and we think, oh, it's going to be so woo-woo. You guys, you need to make sure that you listen to this because Serena talks about not only your business mindset, but how to be more productive with that mindset. And that is exactly what we all need. I want you guys to make sure that if you haven't already downloaded my Mastering Overwhelm Blueprint, that you make sure to head over to the show notes and grab that because you're going to hear us talk about coordinating ideas of how you can make sure that you are truly dominating your day and getting more done in less time. It is possible. All right, you guys, make sure that you hop over to that. Let's dive into this interview.
Hi, Serena. How are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jenny. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I am so excited. Not only that you're accommodating my schedule because you are in Dubai, but also because I just feel like this is such an important conversation about how to manage a business mindset that we all need to have as business owners. So before we start to dive in, will you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself as well as your business?
Sure. My name's Serena and I run a life coaching business. I'm a certified life coach, but I help other life coaches make their first 50K in business. And so a lot of what I do anyway is about mindset, accountability, getting yourself out of procrastination zones and that sort of thing. So I work one-to-one with my clients for 5 months. And really it is that initial sort of inertia that is really, really important at the very beginning of sort of entrepreneurship and starting something for a lot of people, which is brand new, which is having an online business.
Yeah. And it can be I always explain that entrepreneurship is not for the weak of heart. We are very much used to that like roller coaster ride of things being great and things kind of being hard. And of course, 2020 was especially hard with the pandemic, and we're still kind of digging our way out of that, I feel like. But I just think that this is such an important conversation that we need to be having more often. So I'm really excited about it. So let's start off. What is a good business mindset to have for growing a business?
Okay, well, I definitely think there are two particular areas that actually are vital. And I've got a little productivity element to add to that as well. But the first one is always work in the mindset of your future self and choosing that person. We all go into our businesses fully excited with huge inertia to wanting this to be a success in whatever way we see success to be. For some people, that's a lot of money. For some people, that's creating a lifestyle that really works for them. Some people want it all, and that's absolutely fine too. But really understanding who that person is that you want to be is vital because they're going to be with you all the way through the really hard times of your business. So when you're asking yourself a question, to know the mindset of someone in the future, I always call it like Serena 2.0 or Jenny 2.0. It's really important to understand, right? What would they be thinking? How would they be thinking? Because allowing yourself the ability to understand that person, to understand that person who's really inspiring to you is going to allow you to make decisions a lot more quickly, is going to allow you to really go through the hurdles better in your business. It doesn't mean that you're going to have all the answers, but you're going to know how to navigate a lot more quickly than you would do sort of being stuck. So I would say that particular element is really, really huge. And the other element is to know one thing about yourself. Now, business, as you know, is full of uncertainty, and we thrive, our brains thrive so much on certainty, and we like the adrenaline of uncertainty, but what we really want is to have something that is certain. And what we can do is we can say to ourselves, what did we think of ourselves 20 years ago? And that could be anything. We could know something about ourselves of 20 years ago that is true today. So we might be resilient. We might be confident. We might be, we might have always felt relatively powerful. And we know that to be the case 20 years ago, we know it to be the case today, and we know it to be the case in 20 years' time. So that thread of certainty can really guide us along our way, no matter what it is. So as long as you can choose one thing that you know about yourself really, really well, you can always rely on that as you start to grow your business. And the element that I was talking about before of productivity is making sure that you have a daily routine. And whatever that is, it's being able to know that there are certain parts of the day or certain things that you do in the day that stay stable all the way through your business journey, because that routine allows a form of certainty. And if you can create a routine that allows you to rely on yourself, whatever it is, it might be just a workout, it might be 10 sit-ups, it might be going for a walk, it could be that you do mind work, whatever it is. If you allow yourself up to 10 minutes to an hour a day of having that daily routine and allowing yourself to have you time and understand where you stand between yourself and your business is really going to carry you all the way through.
Okay, so I have to tell you, I have never heard anyone talk about a business mindset the way that you just explained it. Blown away by it. It's amazing. And it's just so interesting to me, because I think one of the hardest parts as you start as an entrepreneur is you don't know how to set boundaries. But when you're talking about thinking of yourself 10 years from now, the 2.0 version of you, would they say yes to that? Or would they be like, yeah, no, I don't have time for that. That's not going to drive me forward. That's not going to move me forward in my business. I think when you put it in that perspective, it's kind of like, aha, that makes so much sense. And then when you were talking about that one thing about yourself, it's funny because someone asked me yesterday about what makes you different as a coach. And my answer was, I'm a really good teacher. I know that about myself. I was a former teacher. I know that that's how I break things down. I know that I attract a lot of teachers or former teachers to become clients because of the way that I break things down. So I always referred to that as a characteristic of myself, and part of was kind of my brand was that I was that former teacher, but I never made a conscious decision that that was my one thing, the way you just talked about it. So important. So I'm really, really excited. And then the productivity piece, I think it seems so almost, yes, of course I'm going to do that. I can make a routine, but I think for me, it started off as simple as I got dressed and showered every morning. I put a little bit of makeup on, and it didn't matter who I was talking to or if it was just me working at my desk all day. I started my day by getting dressed and having that routine of this is when my day starts, regardless of what's going on, even if my day starts with dropping the kids off and I need to be dressed and ready to go so I can be at my desk when I need to be. So good.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because so many people think that they need to have these long extended routines. They don't. It needs to be something that is manageable to you, that you know that you can rely on yourself every day to do. So if it's something like putting a bit of makeup on, making sure that you're dressed, because let's face it, if you have an online business, you know that all you need to do is put a bit of a top on, and then you can be in your sweats or whatever it is. But to dress like you're going to work makes all the difference to how you approach your business day. So it's huge.
I actually did a room in Clubhouse yesterday with Katie Q Harrison, who we were talking about confidence. And she talks about that even when she has an interview or she has something going on and she wants to feel that confidence, she'll throw on her heels, even though she's not planning on going anywhere. anywhere. Like she's just sitting up underneath her desk because it sets her up for that mindset of I'm here to work. I'm here to be powerful. I'm going to be confident in myself. I'm going to do my thing. So good. So here's the question I have for you. Is there a time in the growth of your business that you find that a business mindset is most helpful?
There's no question to me. It has to be the startup, because you like I said earlier, you have the inertia that gets you to a certain point. And then, of course, our mind hits the first hurdle and we think, we can't do this. It could be that a client's not happy. It could be that, we're doing something, we're going into the land of the unknown, the online world of, marketing misery, where you have so many options and you might have tried one and it didn't work, and you battle your way through things. And that mindset is key at that beginning stage, because once you're up and running, once you're making six figures plus, you're in your engine's running. And when you have, that you've got this engine raring to go, and you want to make the most out of it, but sometimes we don't have the gas. So the gas is really, really important. And that gas is just making sure that your mindset is being checked all the time, because 90%, and I'm sure most of your listeners know this, but 90% of our thoughts are unconscious. So when you're not doing your mind work, when you're not and what I mean by that is just, really getting a sheet of paper and spending 5 minutes writing down what you're thinking and just observing it. And sometimes your thoughts really do shock you, and thinking, actually, I don't want to think like this. I'm going to choose a thought that I want to think, and then take that thought with you for the rest of the day. That is what's going to take you over these hurdles. That's what's going to push your boundaries even further, because this is an uncomfortable environment. We all want something out of having our own business, and we put ourselves in the uncomfortable environment. And you know what? It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to do things wrong. It's just the thing about it is knowing how to get over those hurdles.
Yes. So the way that you just talked about recognizing and writing down the mind work, I'm in the middle of reading Ask and It Is Given. I think it's Abraham Hicks.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they talk about. They give you different activities to kind of I say activities because of course that teacher in me, but different sessions and things to do where you can sit down and really pay attention to your thoughts, because they talk about how that gives off a vibration of then, because you're having those negative thoughts, you start attracting that negative event that you're thinking about. And instead of saying, I want this, it turns into this. You're actually putting in that negative thought of thinking bad things are actually going to happen whether you're sick, whether you are working within your business, whatever it might be. So I love that you talked about being able to write them down, seeing what you really are thinking.
Yeah. And know that the brain is only going to resort to what it knows, and it knows not how to create a business. So what it's going to do is it's going to refer back to all your insecurities. Well, remember, you can't do this. Remember, you can't do that. And you need to push that. That's why it's so important to choose how you think, because you're going to push those boundaries forward, and you'll look back and you'll be thinking, well, of course that was easy, because you've done it. So the difficult part will always be moving forward and moving ahead. And that's why it is so uncomfortable. But that's why the mind work right at the beginning is key.
Yes. And I always talk with clients that uncomfortable feeling, I always tell them, uncomfortable feeling that you're having is because there's growth about to happen. You're pushing through something, you're figuring out, you're making it work for you and your business. So now if someone is stuck, they're feeling complacent within their business, what would you recommend?
The key thing when starting anything that you want to do that's a challenge is creating goals and setting goals for yourself. And if you're able to understand, you can have your long-term goals, and that's great. And it's always good to have those long-term goals, because remember, you're going to be in the mindset of that person who's kind of made it in your mind. But it's the sort of quarterly goals chopped down into monthly and weekly goals that are really, really going to spur you on. Because, when you're setting out and doing your first ever podcast, podcast 3 doesn't sound that fun. You want to be in podcast 300. When you're writing an article that's your 5th article and no one's reading it, you need to have that sort of mindset that actually, well, by the time the year finishes, you'll have written 25 articles, and that's going to make a statement. So setting goals is huge, and setting goals is what gives you the roadmap to getting you where you need to be. So I would say definitely setting goals. I'll always go back to the thought and mind work and making sure that you're doing that as frequently as you possibly could. And creating a routine for yourself once you've set your goals, and knowing that everyone has a different type of routine. Some people, this is their full-time job. Some people, this is their full-time job plus the kids, plus being a homemaker, plus. And so making sure that you are creating a routine that's not going to kill you, because you have to enjoy the journey. The whole point of this is not getting to your end goal. The whole point is that you're creating a life for yourself that is very different to maybe the corporate job that you had before, or maybe pulling away a little bit from being, a mom and trying to do something for yourself to get yourself more money so that you can do different things with your family, or so that you can have something that you've always wanted to do. So creating routine is also really important for that. And also celebrating your wins. That's really, really important, because, once we've done something, we think it's easy. And actually, no, you've gone uncomfortable. You've got to a point where you don't know what you're doing, and you've passed through those boundaries. So it's really important to celebrate those wins. And, I say that thinking, Serena, you should really take some of your own advice, but it's hard sometimes to celebrate those wins, but really become conscious of them and know that actually, yeah, you know what, 2 weeks ago, I didn't do that. And now that I have, and, you've got more clients because of it, or you're sharing more because of it, those are really important things.
So I have to admit something. Whenever I have heard the word goals, and I think as a teacher, this is just kind of ingrained in me, and I know a lot of my audience are teachers as well, is that we hear goals and we kind of get like, oh, because it was hammered down on us by our administration that we had to have SMART goals and they had to be perfect and they had to be done right. But I can absolutely agree. I recently shared an episode called about how to get out of being complacent. And I was very complacent last year. And when I look at it, this was all pre-COVID, I had sat down in the beginning of the year to write out my goals for the year. And the focus wasn't on my business. The focus was on my personal and health issues and things that were going on with my extended family, that I wanted to build those relationships. So when you talk about it being tied to goals, I can totally see that connection and know that that's why I felt complacent within my business. But the other side of my goals, where I had tied it to that family and building those relationships, I didn't feel complacent. So it's just so interesting to me the way that you were able to just kind of like pick that out. And I can see a real life connection for myself as well with that.
Yeah, I think, and I used to feel the same years ago before I was even doing this work about goals, because goals seemed very sort of linear and corporate, and what we were told to do and how to do it, and it was always the thing that you wanted to avoid doing because you just didn't like. Why was it even important? Because personally, it wasn't important to you, because the goal setting wasn't your idea, and goal setting wasn't going to, in your mind, get you to where you want to be. But now you own your own business. Goal set, it's like being in a car and not turning on the GPS and plugging in the zip code or the postal code. Deciding where it is that you want to go can be actually quite a lot of fun. And what we do as human beings is we get so excited as we leave college or leave school, and we have all these big dreams. And after, 10 years of work life and probably getting married or having kids or whatever, those dreams dissipate. And so we lose our ability to create goals and dream big. And it's a really, really good practice to not only, put in your GPS or your zip code into the GPS, but also for visualization work and being able to see why you're doing what you're doing, and remind yourself of that on a daily basis.
I love it. So earlier we talked a little bit about the doubt that can sneak in, almost like imposter syndrome, right? We can think that, how am I supposed to know how to do this? I've never done it before. And we doubt that we're doing what we were put on this earth to actually do. So how do you shift throughout your day to keep a strong business mindset?
Do you know, the only way to do it on a consistent basis is because, I mean, let's face it, during the course of our week, there'll be spurts of inspiration that can take us through our doubt. And there'll be long periods of procrastination, which confirm our doubt and affirm it and all those things. So being able to plan. And again, that sounds really, it can feel very sort of choked up. You don't need to plan like being at school. You can plan so that you give yourself, enough downtime. You can plan so that you are allowing yourself time with your kids, time with your partner, time to go and do whatever it is that you need to do for yourself. But planning to know what you're going to do in your 2-hour period on a Wednesday afternoon is going to change things dramatically for you, because what you need to do, and actually, I was listening to a podcast a couple of months ago from my coach, who is a guy called Dave Moreno, and he's got a really good way of thinking about this. When you're running your own business, at the beginning of the week, you plan. You're the boss. You're basically telling yourself what to do for the rest of the week. So that's when the boss is at work on either the Sunday night or the Monday morning. For 1 hour, they're planning the rest of the week. And then the rest of the week, you're the employee. And you just do what you've told yourself to do on a piece of paper, so that you know that on a Wednesday at 3:00 till 5, you're going to be working on your podcast, or you're going to be planning your next session with your clients. Whatever it happens to be, it allows you not to have the decision-making problem during the course of the week. You just know that's what you've got to do.
Yes, makes it so much easier. And you're able to actually do more in less time. I think that that's the piece that it makes it all worth it. It's just sitting down that night. I do that every week, as I sit down Sunday and I take a look at it. And then based on appointments, I then fill it in the rest of the week with what my tasks are during that time. I am not on a call face-to-face with someone, whether it's a client or a podcast interview like this. It really does make such a huge difference. So what would you recommend to someone that continually questions their decisions in their business?
Okay, so any decision that you make is going to have a plus point and a negative point to it. It just is. The worst thing that you can do as a business owner is not make a decision. So sometimes they're not going to be the right decisions, and that's okay, because nothing is ever wrong when you're learning, when you're moving forward. But staying in this sort of zone of procrastination and not being able to make a decision, that is what's going to start your brain thinking that this isn't going to work. This isn't working for me. This works for everyone else. Look what everyone else is doing. And it gets you into a spiral, and that spiral can paralyze you. So if you're able to understand, look, no matter what decision I make, it's going to be a decision. So whether it feels right or whether it doesn't feel right, I need to make that decision right now and suffer the consequences later on. Just making those decisions and stepping forward. You might step back half a step, but it is far better to do that than stay stagnant. For anyone out there who has, left the corporate world to come into an industry like this, they've gone through that element of stagnation period. It's like you've worked yourself so much in your career to get to where you've got to. You might have, a really, really good income. You might even enjoy what you do to a certain degree, but the passion might have gone, or something, is not working with your lifestyle. And the worst part is that sort of final year before you actually make a decision, because you don't know what to do. So sort of being in that I don't know procrastination zone, know that that's the worst bit. Once you've made the decision, you can move forward. And everything has a 50-50 balance to it. So you're gonna either work against it or work towards it.
I always use the phrase, you're failing forward. because even if you fail and you fall down, as long as you learn from it, right, and can dust yourself off and figure out the next step of what didn't go well with that, then you're continuing to move forward. So that was perfect aligned. There's so many things that I know my listeners are going, yeah, Jenny says that. It's so nice to hear someone else say it in a different way. So I love this. This is perfect.
I love that.
Do you have any resources that are good for growing a business mindset?
Do you know what I do? I have on my website, I have it's 40 minutes. It's a webinar that allows you to understand how to get to your first 50K. And within that webinar, it's how I work with my clients to get to their first 50K, but their first stage is all about mindset. And it's all about what I call energy zoning, which is sort of getting rid of the shiny objects to the side of you and really focusing. And I talk a lot about visualization and mindset work. So yes, if you go onto my website, you'll be able to find it there.
Yes, we're going to link to that in the show notes as well, so that people can easily find that and be able to sign up. Because I think anytime you can do extra mindset work, I think that it is so important. Do you have, I'm throwing a new question at you that you haven't seen, so I'm just giving you fair warning. Any books or resources like that you would recommend, other books? Because I know my clients are always looking for professional development, kind of like books that they can take a look at. Any ones that you would recommend?
Yes, I love two books in particular. So my first recommendation would be The 7 Principles of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. That's really where, I love the fact that he talks about sort of your circle of influence. And we search so much outside of ourselves to find the answers, where if you can just focus with what you have control over, which is your mind and your feelings and the actions that you take, you can start to make far more of an impact in the world. So I love that book, and I love what he talks about in there. And the other one, which I find actually really challenging to read, and I'm like, this is on my third attempt because I'm still trying to understand it, but I know it's brilliant, is the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. I love it because it's about quantum physics, and everything that I speak to my clients about all has to have that sort of science-based element to it. And he talks a lot about that. And it's not so much about that, but if you can understand, how you've got to where you've got to now and how you can get to where you need to get to in order to get to the life that you want, it's a great book for that.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to link to those in the show notes as well. Where are the best places to connect with you?
So you can go on my website. So that's serenadodd.com, serenadodd.com. And my Instagram account, which is Serena Dodd Coaching. And also I have a podcast for anyone. It's brand new. For anyone who is starting up their business. It's called the First 50K Podcast for Life Coaches.
Excellent. We are going to link to all of those in the show notes. I appreciate you so much. This was such a great conversation. Thank you.
I really loved it. Thank you, Jenny. I had a great time.
All right. Well, there you have it. Serena had some great things to add and be able to get us to really think about how we can have the right mindset for our business in order for it to grow. So make sure that you check out her podcast. And of course, that webinar is also available on her site, which we have linked to in the show notes. If you haven't already grabbed your Mastering Overwhelm Blueprint, make sure that you do that as well. You can always send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose and tell me that you want the blueprint in DMs, and I will make sure to send you a link right there in DM to make it as simple as possible for you. As always, if you haven't left a review yet on your favorite podcasting app about the podcast, I would so appreciate it. A rating and review really lets me know what information is helping you move forward the fastest, as well as it helps me get great guests like Serena. All right, guys, until next time, I will see you all then.